Hello, my name is Tolbury, and ever since Halo 3, Halo has been searching for another pillar of the sandbox, something to supplement the weapons, grenades, and melee. In Halo 3, it was the equipment. In Reach, it was the armor abilities. In Halo 4, they didn't really try anything new in Halo 4, but in Halo 5, it was the Spartan abilities. Despite multiple attempts to establish this fourth element of the sandbox, none of them have truly supplemented and complemented Halo's core gameplay. The equipment were often fun ideas conceptually, however, they failed to make an impact on the game given that some of them were pretty useless and others were effective but overall underwhelming. This is why Halo Reach tried to take these same concepts, improve them, and create armor abilities out of them. Instead of gravity lifts, players had jetpacks, and instead of bubble shields and regenerators, players had the regen shield. Of course, their implementation left a lot to be desired. Once again, many abilities had little use, and having players start off with different abilities was something that many feel contradict the even starts of the previous games. This, of course, carried over to Halo 4 without any sizable changes. Rather than continue the trend of armor abilities, Halo 5 introduced Spartan abilities, a variety of mobility traits that every player has. Now, some people like this new gameplay, but I believe that enhanced mobility is just a dying trend, and as I explained in my sprint video, it also changes the core gameplay in a way that detracts from what makes Halo special. Now, I'm not really going to go deeper into this point, so if you want to understand what I'm saying, I suggest you go watch my sprint video, which is on screen now and in the description. So, what should we want from this fourth element? As I also explained in my sprint video, this new pillar of the sandbox should add to the game meaningfully without fundamentally changing it. Now, it's easier said than done, but I think the answer lies in the equipment and the abilities from 3 and Reach. Again, a lot of these mechanics are very interesting conceptually. Think about the bubble shield or the gravity lift. Both are relatively simple, but, if implemented well, can open doors for a lot of creativity in combat. We know that adding weapons to the game expands the weapon sandbox, and adding to the mobility usually changes the core gameplay, but adding a dynamic element to the geometry of maps would be a way of mixing up part of the gameplay sandbox without fundamentally changing the others. So, if Halo 3's equipment were underwhelming because they were often gimmicks rather than a pillar of the gameplay, and the armor abilities were poorly received because you spawned with them, how can you implement these mechanics in a way that is both impactful yet true to Halo's formula? The answer to me is pretty simple. Use them like power weapons and power-ups. I think if you take these equipment and abilities, modify their usage a bit, and place them on maps like other powerful items, they can finally reach their potential as gameplay mechanics. Now, by modify them, I don't mean just to tweak them for balance, I mean to change how they're used. Let's say when you pick up a certain ability, it has limited uses, but when you die, the other team can recover it. Take the bubble shield for example. Maybe instead of a big shield that pops up for 20 seconds, there are smaller shields that last 10 seconds each and you can use it a couple of times. Maybe you could throw the shields like grenades to suppress people. What about the gravity lift? What if instead of acting as a lift that remains open for a short time, one use sends a big pulse upwards that can lift multiple people at once? What if you could plant it against a wall next to a hill to throw everyone out of it? This could even help make some of the less useful equipment and mechanics work. You could take things like the flare and the radar jammer, both meant to distort people's ability to navigate, and combine them into some sort of EMP machine that glitches out people's heads-up display. Maybe each use of it is throwable, or have the pulses emanate from whoever holds it. Really, the possibilities are endless. Me and my friend Ultraman just talked for like 30 minutes about different ways to use these ideas. And think about it, this way of implementing them is perfectly in line with Halo's core formula. You have to fight for control of them. If the enemy team picks one up, you can still recover it by killing whoever has it. What would really be interesting to see is how each ability works not only with the maps, but also with the weapon sets on each map. Maybe certain weapons are stronger against certain abilities, and certain abilities are good counters to other weapons. It'd just be cool to see. In summary, you take the core mechanic of the equipment or the armor ability. You then ask how you can change them so that there are more potential uses for them in game. What you don't want is an ability with only one function that can't be used for a wide range of purposes. And this is probably the hardest part. I mean, how do you rework the bubble shield so people don't just use it for cover in the middle of an open field? I can throw out a few ideas, but in all honesty, I'm not smart enough to know if they're really any good without being able to test out different concepts. But for developers with big studios and teams of people, I'm sure they can find a way to implement these mechanics. Then, through the process of playtesting and balancing, you work out a reasonable strength and usage capacity for each mechanic. Now, these are just some raw ideas that I've talked to some other people about. I'm sure a group of developers can make much more polished versions of these and be able to make them work in-game. You want them to be balanced where people want to pick them up just as much as rockets or an overshield, but not too powerful that they disrupt the gameplay. Of course, this is much easier said than done, but 343 has shown a big improvement in being able to balance out a sandbox from Halo 4 to Halo 5. Hopefully, the end result is a set of equipment that make an impact on the gameplay without changing it too much. Now, in all honesty, I seriously doubt 343 will ever do this. Unfortunately, Halo 5 is taking on enhanced mobility. It's a direction that I find uninspired and unlike Halo, but even worse is that to 343, Halo 5's mechanics seem to be well received. This is due to the illusion of most fans praising the gameplay when, in reality, most people like me, who prefer the old style, have already left the franchise. This leaves only the fans of the new direction and the poor idiots like me who think we can make a change. Now, despite my disbelief that 343 will ever take out Sprint and Thrust and all that other nonsense, I still think it's a fun concept to discuss, but hey, maybe they do end up doing something like this. Maybe they do something completely different that ends up working really well. In that case, I'd be pretty happy, but the point is, innovation in Halo's gameplay doesn't require following trends in the market, but rather an examination of the old Halo games and what made them special.
Betrayed. Betrayal.
In all honesty, the purpose of this video isn't just to talk about a cool idea that could be introduced in Halo 6. I also want to prove that there are a lot of other directions to take Halo's gameplay than enhanced mobility. There are a lot of people out there who firmly believe that sprint and thrusters are the future of the franchise, that without Halo 5's hyper gameplay, the game wouldn't be moving forward. I want to do away with the false narrative that without these mechanics, Halo would feel old. The only thing old about classic gameplay is the release dates of the game that featured it. The original Halo games featured a gameplay that had a unique, simple style that could be played at any level. There has been no modern replacement for the goldmine that is Halo's core formula. And to think that there are no ways to supplement that formula without adding in a range of uninspired movement abilities that twist it out of shape is delusional. The ideas that I presented in this video aren't revolutionary. They aren't even great. Regardless, the half-baked brainstorming session that I've just translated into this video stands as proof that there are new ways to take this franchise that are both interesting and exciting. So, let me know how you would modify these equipment. Or maybe don't even talk about the equipment. Talk about what you want added as this fourth pillar of the gameplay sandbox. Throwing original ideas around is how innovation happens, not following trends. Thank you for watching.